Hello, it's Deepa from the Beaumont Library with your recommended read. Today I'll be reading an excerpt from Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan and published by Lakewood Union Publishing. In early February 2006, I was 47 and at the lowest point of my life. My younger brother, who was also my best friend, had drunk himself to death the summer before. I'd written a novel no one liked, was embroiled in a business dispute, and stood on the brink of personal bankruptcy. Driving alone on a Montana highway at dusk, I started thinking about my insurance policies and realized that I was worth much more to my family dead than alive. I contemplated driving into a freeway abutment. It was snowy and the light was low. No one would have suspected suicide. But then, in my mind's eye, I saw my wife and sons in the swirling snow and had a change of heart. When I pulled off the highway, I was shaking uncontrollably. On the verge of a breakdown, I bowed my head and begged God and the universe for help. I prayed for a story, something greater than myself, a project I could get lost in. Believe it or not, that very same evening at a dinner party in Bozeman, Montana, of all places, I heard the snippets of an extraordinary untold tale of World War II with a 17-year-old Italian boy as its hero. My first reaction was that the story of Pino Lella's life in the last 23 months of the war could not possibly be true. We would have heard it before. But then I learned that Pino, pronounced P-E-A-N-O, was still alive some 6 decades later and back in Italy after nearly 30 years in Beverly Hills and Mammoth Lakes, California. I called him. Mr. Lella was very reluctant to talk to me at first. He said he was no hero, more a coward, which only intrigued me further. Finally, after several more phone calls, he agreed to see me if I came to Italy. I flew to Italy and spent 3 weeks with Pino in an old villa in the town of Lisa on Lake Maggiore, north of Milan. At the time, Pino was 79, but big, strong, handsome, charming, funny, and often evasive. I listened to him for hours on end while he summoned up the past. Some of Pino's memories were so vivid they appeared in the air in front of me. Others were more dimly lit and had to be coaxed into clarity through repeated questioning. Certain events and characters he clearly avoided, and others he seemed to dread talking about at all. When I pressed the old man about these painful times, he recounted tragedies that reduced us both to sobbing. During that first trip, I also talked to Holocaust historians in Milan and interviewed Catholic priests and members of the partisan resistance. I have visited every major scene with Pino. I skied and climbed in the Alps to better understand the escape routes. I held the old man when he collapsed in grief in the Piazzale Loreto, and I watched the agony of his loss ripple through him in the streets around the Castello Sforzesco. He showed me where he last saw Benito Mussolini. In the great cathedral of Milan, the Duomo, I saw his shaking hand as he lit a candle for the dead and the martyred. Through it all, I listened to a man looking back at 2 years of his extraordinary life, growing up at 17, growing old at 18, the ups and downs, the trials and triumphs, the love and the heartbreak. My personal problems and my life in general seemed small and insignificant in comparison to what he'd endured at an unfathomably young age. And his insight into life's tragedies gave me a new perspective. I began to heal, and Pino and I became fast friends. When I returned home, I felt better than I had in years. And that was an excerpt from Beneath a Scarlet Sky. I hope you check it out.